Alright, what's up you guys? So, welcome to this new series on my channel. As you guys know, I have re-fallen in love with reading and I've just been a bookworm. So, you guys have asked me to do a video telling you guys about books that I read, what I love, what I didn't love. Now I'm not going to give away too much of the book. I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything like that because, again, I want you guys to enjoy the books as much as I did. These are all the books that I've read this year. Malibu Rising was last year, but yeah, these are the books that I've read. I also have notes so that this is like an organized video and I'm not all over the place. So the first book, and this is a huge TikTok, made me buy it, read it, all of it, is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I didn't read about what it was about before reading it. I don't like to do that. I don't like to read the synopses. I feel like a lot of the time it just gives a ton of it away. This book is about these siblings. I don't want to say their last name just yet because of another book, but as you guessed it, this whole thing takes place in Malibu, but it takes place in the 1980s, and they basically throw this party and essentially their lives change for like forever. So it basically takes course over the like 24 hours of this party, but it also, what I really loved about this book is that it does a ton of flashbacks. Now I will say I loved this book. I already loved this book. Like I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I loved it even more after I read The Seven Husbands. I will tell you in a sec why. When we get to this book, I'll tell you why. If anything, this book might inspire you to like be honest with yourself, be honest with others, because they all have secrets. This book actually would be a really good telenovela because of like the scandal and the drama. Highly recommend this book. I give it a 10 out of 10. Even though I couldn't put it down, it took me forever to finish this book. Crawford, how long did it take me to finish this book?
Literally 7 years.
No, it took me so long just because at that point also I was, very busy. I've learned that having an editor has saved me a lot of time. So now I can read, and that's why I've been like just soaring through these books. Also, I don't know if I explained that well. Again, I've never done this before and I don't want to give away too much of the book because I want you guys to enjoy them again as much as I did. Also, do you like my Sonic t-shirt? Okay, so the next book I read is Beach Read by Emily Henry. You guys have actually told me to read all of her other books, so I'm definitely gonna do that. It's hard for me not to love a romance novel. I feel like I'm a sucker for them, so it's really hard for me not to like one, so I really liked this one. It's called Beach Read. The main character is a romance writer who has writer's block. She essentially like doesn't really believe in like love anymore, and it takes place over the summer. She meets a fellow writer, I don't want to give too much away, who's also sort of kind of like in a slump, in like a writer's like block thing. So I will say this video is quite spicy. This video, it's a little sexy. Just be aware. I don't want anyone getting me in trouble, okay, with their parents. If you guys have read it, let me know what you rate it. I rate it like an 8-9. Go check it out. The next book I read is Cheat Day by Liv Stratman. So this was such a random book. I literally picked this up at the store because I liked the cover. That's literally why I bought this book. So I was like, oh, it's cute. There's some cake. So it's called Cheat Day. I realized today, if you guys haven't seen on my Instagram, I added a book highlight so you guys will know like what books I'm reading, what I recommend. I never posted this one and I didn't realize it until today, and I was like, why didn't I post that in that like on Instagram? I realized that like I was pissed off at this book. It is a good book. It wasn't my favorite. The main character is kind of like in a loop. She's kind of like a mess, even though like she has a good job, she has a good husband. I feel like she doesn't really have control of her life, and she's like obsessed with fad diet. She feels like the only thing she has control of is like being on this like crazy fad diet, and essentially, as you can guess from the title, she falls into a sort of an affair. I don't know, I didn't like her. I didn't like the character. I was just like pissed off at her. If you guys have read this, let me know if you guys felt the same, but I still recommend it. Also, highly recommend, if you pick this book up, do not read what it's about because it essentially gives away the whole thing, which I was shocked when I read this. I was like, that's essentially the whole book. But yeah, so I do not read the synopsis before reading this. So yeah, I give this a 5 out of 10. I'm starting a whole library on this wall, or maybe I'll put it on this wall so when I film these videos, it's like a library behind me. So the next book is It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover. I don't even think I'm gonna say almost anything about this book because I want you guys to not know what it's about. I don't want to give it away in the slightest. I want you guys to enjoy this book as thoroughly as I did. It is incredible. A 15 out of 10. One of my favorite moments was when the title is like echoed in the book, like the point in the book where you actually read it ends with us. You're just like, ah. And did I sob? Yes. Look up the triggers first. I already pre-ordered It Starts With Us. This was my favorite book of the year until I read another one, but that just shows you like how good this book is. So The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. As you guys know, Netflix, I believe, picked it up. I'm praying to the television gods that it is a series because I think it would just be genius. So I don't want to give too much away about this either. You absolutely fall in love with Evelyn Hugo. It's about her 7 husbands. When I bought this book, again, I don't read what they're about before reading them, but I thought it was like a murder mystery for some reason. Doesn't it give that vibe? Right, Crawford? What? If you saw this book, what would you think it was about?
Cheating.
When I told Crawford I was reading this book, he's like, oh, the 7 husbands, huh? Oh, 7 of them, huh? So one of the characters in The 7 Husbands is one of the main characters in Malibu Rising, if not literally the whole effing book. So yeah, definitely highly recommend reading Malibu Rising, and then this will be like a nice little treat when it pops up in this book. Okay, so this next book is my favorite of the year and also possibly my favorite of all time. It is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I picked this up at the store because I literally just liked the colors. I had no idea what it was about. But it also has this Good Morning America book club. I didn't even see this till just now, but it says one of New York Times 10 best books of the year. So it is about these 2 sisters. They're twins, identical. It starts off in the 60s. They grow up in a super small black southern town, except that this town purposely is made up of like light-skinned people, so light-skinned that like some people get mistaken for being white. Now the twins end up running away essentially, and one of the twins returns years later, except that when she returns with her young daughter, who is much darker in skin than she is, and so the town is just in a frenzy. I just absolutely adored it. I gave it a 17 out of 10. Next book was another one that I just picked up at the store because I thought it was pretty. So this next book is Violetta by Isabel Allende. I don't really know. So the main character in this book is born into the 1920 Spanish influenza pandemic, and she lives 100 years into the COVID pandemic. Me reading this in the beginning, I didn't know that she was gonna live the span of like 100 years, right? But I'm like reading it, and I'm like reading through the first couple chapters of them in this, you know, the Spanish influenza starting, they're in lockdown, all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, this sounds like 2020. And so I was instantly hooked. But it's essentially about her life. One of the reasons I also loved this book is because it had me Googling a lot of things. I was using my dictionary a lot for this book, so I really liked it. I give it a 10 out of 10. So this next book, it was a random book that I picked up at the airport. Didn't know anything about it. I liked the cover because it had the Golden Gate Bridge on it, like in San Francisco, where I'm from. So this is In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. Oh my gosh, I thought this was the Golden Gate Bridge when I bought it. It's the Brooklyn Bridge, and I finished it in a day and like a morning. But it's about this girl who's getting engaged and then falls into a dream where she's 5 years in the future, except it's like a full-on premonition where she's with this other man. This book fast forwards pretty quickly, like through the years, but I loved it. I give this a 9.5. I'm sorry, do I live next to like a racetrack? I give this like a 9 out of 10. I don't know, it wasn't like, again, the most like epic thing, but I will say the ending is not what you expect. So maybe I should give it like a 9.2, because I usually... Is there someone doing donuts outside my house? I did cry. I will say that I cried a lot at the end, just because friendship for me is, obviously you guys know my friends are my everything. Kind of hit close to home with that, so. All right, the last one. I had hundreds of messages saying to read this. I kid you not. Ugly Love, Colleen Hoover. And I bawled like a baby. I'm not even gonna lie to you, Colleen Hoover does not miss. Basically, the main character, she moves in with her brother, she's finishing up school, she's gonna be a nurse, all this stuff, and you know, she has a run-in with one of her neighbors, and that's essentially all I'm going to tell you about. I would definitely read the triggers for this. I give this a 13 out of 10. Honestly, read all of her books at this point because I'm going to. I loved it. Definitely grab a box of tissues for these two. Alright, you guys, so that is the books that I've read this year. I'm currently reading Brain on Fire. I'll probably will finish it today, I'm not kidding you. So yeah, let me know if you guys would like a part 2 to this. Let me know if you guys would like me to reveal a little more about these books. I'm just scared. I don't want to be a spoiler. I don't want to be a spoiler. So you guys, that is the end of this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, comment down below any other book recommendations you have for me. If you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you go do that because I do post all these books. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join the family, and we love ya. We're doing great, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye.